Hey, everybody, this is Todd Keneley, and you are listening to James and Patrick on the interview.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Interactive Wrestling Radio right here on WrestlingEpicenter.com. It's James Walsh, and we are joined once again this week by Todd Keneley, who joined us last time just before Slammiversary last year. What a difference about 7 months makes. Todd joined us this time just before the Royal Rumble. Not really anything to do with the Royal Rumble, does Todd Keneley, but still a great guest to get, and a lot more relaxed this time around because there's no pressures of making sure he doesn't say the wrong thing for TNA, and quite frankly, our line of questioning was a lot more relaxed as well. So I think you guys are going to enjoy this interview. If you want to check out the original interview, check out the archives at WrestlingEpicenter.com. Enjoy the Super Bowl next week, by the way. I'm in my red, white, and blue here for the Olympics. Olympics starting very soon in Sochi. Anybody ever heard of Sochi before the Olympics? Anybody? I haven't. I don't know. I'm a pretty intelligent guy, but I never heard of it. Hope we can avoid a Munich situation. Sounds to me like it's a little volatile over there. Go red, white, and blue. And you know what? If I was there, I'd be wearing this shirt out and around. I don't care. You can never be afraid of who you are and where you came from. That's all I got to say. Anyway, I hope everybody enjoys this episode of Interactive Wrestling Radio. Todd Keneley gives a really good interview. Patrick Kelly and I sit down and discuss the Royal Rumble right after the interview, so I hope you guys are going to enjoy it. The interview was recorded on Wednesday night. Here we are Saturday night. A little slow putting it up. I was at a Rat concert last night, and frankly, I wanted to put it up the day of the Royal Rumble anyway. Hope you guys really enjoy this one. It is one to enjoy. It really is a good one. Thank you to Todd Keneley for checking it out. Check out Championship Wrestling from Hollywood on DirecTV, Channel 214, on late Tuesday evenings. And again, thank you, Todd Keneley, and hope you guys enjoy. See you next week.
This is Bobby the Brain Heenan, and if you're smart like me, you'll be listening to Interactive Interview. I do all the time.
Interactive Wrestling
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Interactive Wrestling Radio. Before we do our Royal Rumble recap, joining us on the Newsmaker line, a little bit of a surprise, is a former guest of our show who was with us the weekend of Slammiversary, and now he's on us the weekend of the Royal Rumble, the one and only former Impact Wrestling announcer, Todd Keneley. Todd, are you with us?
I'm with you. What's going on?
Man, I'm glad to have you on the show again, and just for my listeners and for myself as well, we had nothing to do with that being your last Impact Wrestling show, did we?
No, pure coincidence, that's for sure.
Okay.
I don't think I'd be returning to the show if you had. So I think you're safe.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad to hear that because it was a eerie coincidence, and I thought, oh no, what did I do? But I'm glad it had nothing to do with that. So I guess my first question, we had you on literally the day before the fan access of Slammiversary. And we were even talking about that, and then unfortunately the news broke literally the day after that was your last broadcast. How did that come to be? And I heard that you knew beforehand about going into the broadcast that it was your last with TNA. Is that the truth?
Yeah, and my last fan interaction. So the people that were there, I guess those 8x10s are a collector's item now. But I did, and I still don't have all the answers, but I did find out earlier in the day on Sunday, the day of Slammiversary, and Bruce Pritchard broke the news to me, and it was really heartbreaking. I've worked hard at this for well over 10 years now, and that was a big opportunity and big break for me, and I felt right at home at TNA, and just was so honored to be calling matches, for the likes of Kurt Angle and Sting and Jeff Hardy and AJ Styles, and a lot of the guys that I broke into the business with, Samoa Joe and Kazarian and Daniels, the guys that really first got their feet wet out here on the West Coast. And so it was tough, man, and it was kind of, well, what do I do now type situation. But when I went and talked to Tanae and Taz right after, Taz, they were both concerned and said, hey, man, do you even want to go out there? And I looked at it as a huge opportunity. If I'm going to have one last broadcast with TNA. I wanted to go out with a bang. I mean, arguably their second biggest event of the year, and I had worked hard calling the matches leading up to it, and I wasn't going to just give up that opportunity to go out and try and hit one more out of the park. And I thought we had a really solid broadcast that day, and I think, looking back, I think I earned a lot of respect from a lot of the guys, because a lot of people didn't know until after. And I didn't really go around and say too many goodbyes or anything beforehand, because at that point I'm prepping like I normally would and getting ready for a broadcast, right, and a big broadcast at that. So I think there was a lot of shock afterwards, and once people, the talent and otherwise found out that I knew going in, and I still went out there and kept my head up and called a good show. I think I earned a lot of respect with that.
And you did. And from whether you believe this or not, I have a degree in communications, but I also have a minor of sorts in broadcasting. So I know what it is to go on the air with everything else going on in your life, and basically having to put that kind of stuff behind you. You have to not even pay attention to it. It isn't happening. All that's happening is what's around you. And you did such a good job. It was great news. I mean, it wasn't great news, but it was a great broadcast, and the news that broke was just really depressing, because I honestly told you, and I said this again, you brought something to those two guys to highlight their strengths as well. And I don't know, maybe it's just me, and this is not me blowing smoke at all, but without you, it's a little bit flat at times. It just seems like it's a little bit flat to me.
Yeah, and I think that, and all due respect for both of those guys, and I want it known, that I don't have any hard feelings towards them or anybody there.
Absolutely.
TNA gave me a great opportunity. They really helped, put me on the map. I mean, the hardcore fans that have really watched and paid attention, might have seen me on Hulk Hogan's Celebrity Championship Wrestling, or might have seen some of the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood stuff, or UPW, or some of the stuff I've done. But that was huge exposure, and they showed a lot of trust in me and throwing me in the mix. I mean, my debut was calling the first hour of Impact Live with KB my first day there. So they showed a ton of trust in me and putting me on live TV, giving me that opportunity. And so, I mean, I can't be anything but thankful.
Absolutely.
For that. And Tenay and Taz really coached me up and helped me a lot. And I'm sure I came in with some bad habits and some things that, you just don't realize. And they really helped me out. But yeah, I thought we were hitting our stride, and I thought that we had a good mix. And I think I did help bring some passion and energy, because it's not fabricated. I am a wrestling fan. I know it's cliche to say, and trust me, I'm the king of cliches, but
right.
I'm a wrestling fan first and foremost. So I brought that in, and I really was thrilled to be calling matches there. So I think I did help bring an energy, and then I think I kind of brought a different style, and I had come off the heels when I came in there off of calling some MMA as well, so I think I brought some of that to it, and I was happy with it. And it's ironic, as you said, that it was like I was running 100 miles an hour, and then it comes off the track. I felt like we really hit our stride, especially with Slammiversary. It may very well have been our best broadcast as a trio, and then it's over, and that was hard. That was definitely a hard pill to swallow, for sure.
Absolutely, and you probably take a little bit of pride in knowing that Vince McMahon himself has viewed the ladies' match from that night, the Gail Kim match, as the standard that he wants to beat in the WWE with the Divas division, and that's a match you called. So that has to be a little bit of sense of pride for you to know that you were part of something that Vince McMahon views as a standard.
Oh, certainly, and I'm sure that TNA throughout my time there and my time after, and the time before I was there, I'm sure there's people watching what they're doing. But yeah, I'm happy that Vince thought that about that match, and it was a phenomenal match, and it did turn a lot of heads, and those two went out there and really stole the show. It was fantastic, and it was great to call.
Well, on a happier note, you did return to Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, and I actually, through DirecTV, have the opportunity to watch that every late Tuesday night, and I do so, and it's definitely worth watching, for anybody out there who doesn't do so, check out Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. If you're a wrestling fan, just get DirecTV because you get that as well as TCW from Arkansas, and it's just there's a lot of great wrestling that's a little under the radar that you could pick up through DirecTV that you might not be able to get through your regular satellite or regular cable provider. But your first night back at Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, they gave you a standing O.
Yeah, great warm reception, and that really helped too, just to have that easy transition back, because I think it was maybe I believe it was the next weekend after Slammiversary that they had a taping, and I returned, and I was right back at home, and it felt great. And yeah, DirecTV or even you can go to HollywoodWrestling.com, or they've got footage on YouTube as well. But if you're a wrestling purist per se and a fan of pro wrestling, check it out, because they do have some great talent there and put on some really great matches, and it's a blast to call. And that everything happens for a reason, and my journey's not done in this business, not by a long shot, and who knows? I mean, the impact door may very well open again. I'm completely proud of everything I did there, and I think if there's an opportunity, there's a good chance that I could be back. But in the interim, it was funny how timing works out. It was pretty close after I was released from TNA that Matt Stryker was released from WWE. And as soon as I saw that, I thought to myself, man, I hope there's a platform somewhere where he and I can work together and call some matches together, because I just felt that he and I could make a really good team. We have such a respect and knowledge of the history of wrestling, and he is a self-proclaimed wrestling nerd. I very much am the same way.
I think that makes three of us, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and the little quirks and pop culture references and one-liners, I just knew that he and I would have a lot of fun in the booth together. And Championship Wrestling from Hollywood made that happen. We got to call a few episodes together, and he's transitioning into a wrestling role and going to do some in-ring stuff for them as well now. But I just had an absolute blast calling for him, and had I not had an opportunity to go back to Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, maybe he and I would have never worked together. So it was definitely a good thing.
Absolutely, and he was one of my favorites, just as you were one of my favorites for TNA. He was one of my favorites for WWE, because he would mention the independent stuff, which I'm sure didn't do him any favors backstage, because they tend to want to believe that they're the only game that ever existed. But regardless, he always would mention things that happen nationally and internationally with these guys who do have a backstory other than their WWE journeys. And I always loved that about him, and I always got the feeling that's kind of why he was silenced a little bit and not as prominent as some of their other announcers. But going back to TNA, what a difference, what was it, 6, 7, 8 months is? At the time, you were talking about how Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan had helped to bring you in, and now both of those gentlemen seem to be out. Certainly Hogan is out, obviously getting ready to make his return to the WWE, and Bischoff with the uncertain status that nobody really has an answer on. What is your take on all the changes that have occurred in TNA, where it's basically a whole different game from where you were, and we're just talking about half a year ago?
Yeah, it's really, really interesting and strange, kind of the turn that they've taken. At the time that we talked, it was coming off of a run of going on the road.
Right.
And obviously that comes with some hardship and some cost, but the crowds had been great, and it had been a lot of fun being in front of different fans from different cities, and they came out in numbers, and they were passionate. And the experience itself, I think, for the live crowd was great, and I know that all the talent really enjoyed and thrived working in front of crowds like that. And just like when their European tour every year, and of course they're going to even invest more in that this year and film some more TV and pay-per-views out there. I just think that company, to me, definitely has the better vibe and comes off as big as it should when it's in front of a big arena.
Right.
And I just like the look of it better than being in a sound stage. So, but now obviously changes have to be made, and a lot of administrative changes, and John Gaburik's there now. He jumped over. He was vice president of TV for WWE for a long time, and I had got to work with him a little bit on one of my WWE auditions when they flew me in. But Ed Talon obviously changing and thinning out the roster. But as they say, you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. And unfortunately, I was one of those eggs that was cracked.
Well, you were one of the first. It seemed like you were the first.
Yeah,
kind of,
I was.
Like the foreshadowing of what was to come, kind of thing.
It seems that way, man. I was the first to walk the plank, and although this is going to sound horrible, in a way it was almost beneficial because I think it garnered more attention because I was kind of on an island and isolated when it happened to me, and then it just started happening in droves and people released in groups, and I think it would have slipped under the radar more. So if it had to happen, I guess it was better that I was out there first and all by my lonesome.
Yeah, exactly. And you were there, like you said, calling the second biggest pay-per-view of the year for them. And certainly their best pay-per-view of the year, Bound for Glory, was kind of, due to the turmoil, it kind of, to me as a fan, was not as successful as it could have been. A lot of people were kind of like, it was one of those situations where you find yourself like at the end of the movie waiting for something else to happen, and then the credits roll. And it's like, that sucks. But it just felt like there was more that could have occurred with it. But, yeah, you certainly called the best pay-per-view of the year, Lockdown and Slammiversary, both of them being incredible pay-per-views, and so much steam and changes have incurred, as you said. And I'm sure they'll bounce back, but right now we're in a situation where we're kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with a lot of different things, and WWE has seized a lot of momentum if there's any kind of competition involved, obviously with the road to WrestleMania beginning on Sunday with Royal Rumble. And you mentioned WWE, and I guess this is a good way to segue into what is your future aspirations and goals, both in wrestling broadcasting, and you mentioned MMA, so outside of wrestling as well. What is your agenda right now? What does Todd Keneley want to hope to accomplish in the next couple of years?
Yeah, just opportunity. And, I definitely got the bug by my time in TNA. I want to be in broadcasts of that caliber and get right back into it. It's hard, like I said, it was very hard for it just to come to an abrupt end when you get that kind of momentum going. WWE, obviously, road to WrestleMania, as you mentioned, but of course, the groundbreaking announcement of the network as well.
Absolutely.
If this would have come out in my childhood, I would, probably weigh 500 pounds and never leave the house. I mean, I'd be completely worthless. So at least now I have some responsibilities that I can't skirt and duck, and I'm gonna have to mind my P's and Q's and just get some viewing in when I can. But I mean, my gosh, as a wrestling fan, how can you hope for anything more? Every single WWE pay-per-view, ECW, WCW. I mean, they've done so much work to acquire these libraries that they've got content for eons. Man. Yeah, it's going to be amazing. And then with the new content as well, and new shows, and they're going to have a studio show and call-in show, and then the pay-per-views, of course. I think it's going to be great. And in this business, I mean, I grew up a huge fan of WWE in the 80s. I grew up in that era, and I just absolutely loved listening to Gorilla Monsoon call the matches. He was my favorite. It's always a goal. I mentioned that I've gotten looks by WWE on several occasions. I've been flown back to Stamford 3 times, and I had one other audition backstage at a SmackDown taping years ago.
Well, what time frame are we talking about here?
Initially, it was back. I believe it was around 2002, 2003. So we're going back a ways.
Okay.
And I probably had no business being there at that time. And when I flew back, there was so much on the line, and so much hope to land a gig with them. I felt like I was pretty much on point. Sat down and called play-by-play. The first time was with Taz, oddly enough. Another audition was calling matches with Michael Cole, and then the last time up there was 2009, and it was with Joey Styles. Wow. Play-by-play, I felt fine, but I had to do some on-camera stuff, and man, nerves got the best of me. I headlights, I was shaky, and so maybe that's why I'm not there now. But with the experience at TNA and being on live TV, calling pay-per-views and doing some stand-up stuff as well, I feel like if I got a shot now that, I'd like to believe that I could go in there and land an opportunity, which remains a huge goal, because that's kind of the one thing that haunts me, I guess, a little bit, you could say, is that I had several opportunities and just they never pulled the trigger. So never say never. I would jump at the opportunity. That's for sure.
Very cool, very cool. So I got a couple unwrestling related questions for you, based on the time of year we're in. Do you follow the current WWE product?
I do. Yep.
Okay. Any predictions on the Royal Rumble, since we're going to basically spend the rest of the show with Patrick?
How is this non-wrestling related? That's my only
Well, actually, yeah, I changed it around. I was originally going to say, what was your prediction for the Super Bowl? Obviously, being a big football fan, former college player yourself. But I changed it around in my head there, and I changed it to the Rumble instead.
Okay. It's going to be. I think it's going to be a really interesting Royal Rumble. I think this one has a lot of intrigue.
It does.
Obviously, there's going to be some standout guys. Batista's not coming back for nothing. You know that if anything, he's going to make a big wave in that match, and he's going to factor in. I'd say right up until the end, and maybe win it. Who knows?
Just hope he's not wearing the skinny pants when he does so.
I hope not, man. And a little, sweater zip up or whatever. But yeah, I think he'll obviously have a standout performance. I think that Roman Reigns, it's obviously a breakout time for him. So I could see him dumping a lot of bodies. He could have that Kane-esque, Diesel-esque run where he's just launching people left and right.
Oh, yeah.
And you got to look at, CM Punk obviously coming in at number one. That's going to be a really interesting story to follow throughout the Rumble. I'm sure that he's going to be in harm's way many times over, and I'm sure he'll fight his way out of it. And I think he's got the guts and endurance and the crowd behind him to be around towards the very end. And then there's Daniel Bryan that, after getting some revenge on Bray Wyatt, is just red hot. And at some point, you can't go against the grain. I mean, the reaction that he got couple weeks ago on Raw was one of those magical moments. One of those moments that's one of those moments where, as a wrestling fan, you get dragged through the mud sometimes and you take your fair share of rousing. But that was one of those moments where you could point a finger to the TV and show anybody and say, this right here is why I love wrestling. So I think, I'd love to see him win it.
I would love to see
if nothing else.
On that, yeah.
I think the place would go absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, and I'm not one of those, I'm not one of those guys that specifically favors only technical wrestlers. I like a majority of different styles. I like the big guy styles. I like the mat wrestlers. I like everything that goes into the pot that makes the mix of talent so unique. Daniel Bryan, however, though, has really just risen so much above just being what he kind of was thumbed as when he first came into the company, and has developed this character and this persona that people love him, and the crowd reactions were just insane. I mean, even on Raw, as silly as the little promo he cut was, and the very 1992-esque standing there talking to a video screen was, the crowd reaction of just lifting his arm up and in unison saying yes and getting that kind of hockey game goal reaction was just insane. It's ready to push the button. And now, actually, the non-wrestling topic. I know you're a big football guy, former player as well in college, and I guess my question for you is, who are you picking to win the big game on next Sunday?
I'm going to go Broncos just because I really want to see Peyton Manning win this. I just think that it would be storybook. The guy comes back from neck surgery, heartbreaking loss to the Ravens in the first round last year. He comes back. He's got the guts. He's got the will, has statistically one of his best, if not his best seasons, and he gets to the Super Bowl. I just think it would be such a letdown if he doesn't cap it off by winning it. And so I want to see it happen. And I think it's despite my loyalties, in my past with USC and really loving the fact that Pete Carroll is going to be coaching in a Super Bowl.
That's a good point, yeah.
I think it's going to be a great matchup. I mean, you look at the defense of Seattle, and they've been lights out, and especially their defensive backs. It's going to present an awesome challenge for Peyton Manning and the Bronco offense, and I think it's going to be a great Super Bowl. But I certainly hope and want Peyton to get it. If nothing else, he's got to tie his little bro.
Right?
it just doesn't seem right. The legacy of Peyton Manning, that Eli Manning would have more Super Bowl rings than him. So
yeah,
you got to right that wrong. And
exactly.
I think this may be, the only shot for it.
Well, this might be his last shot. I mean, he's not getting any younger. But then again, 2 years ago we didn't know if he'd ever play again, and this year he had the best year a quarterback could ever have. And as you said, just smashed every record. He smashed Drew Brees' record. He smashed the most touchdowns record that Brady had held. I mean, he just smashed every record you could possibly smash, it would seem. So yeah, the storybook ending would be lifting the Lombardi Trophy. But we'll see what happens with that.
And it's weird. It's almost, you can't write it any better. Last year, who were they knocked off by? They're knocked off by the Ravens and Ray Lewis, who had announced
double overtime,
it was his
right?
final. Yeah, and it's his final go, and Ray Lewis is going to hang it up, and Ray Lewis gets that one last elusive championship. So this year it's Peyton's turn.
Absolutely.
You got to love the psychology. You know what I mean? You can't write it any better.
No, you really couldn't write it any better. There's some people on our Facebook page who say football's a work, and I just laugh it off because it's like it's so not. It's just human drama, and that's what wrestling's based off of. Wrestling's based off of human drama and a sense of reality mixed into the storybook, and that's exactly what you're getting this year with the football season and the NFL and frankly, the two teams that probably should be in the Super Bowl are in the Super Bowl, and there you go. You got one heck of a game coming up. Well, Todd, can't thank you enough for spending this much time as you did with us. And is there anything you'd like to say to your fans out there? And where can people keep up with your current goings-on?
Yeah, keep up with me on Twitter's really the best way. Just at Todd Keneley, and like we talked about before, check out Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Some great talent there. Joey Ryan is there. Scorpio Sky, Willie Mack. Just they put on some great matches. And then, two, keep an eye out for Territorial League. That's Rikishi and Gangrel and the others at Knox Pro Entertainment. Their thing. It's team-based. There's teams from different cities, and they have a full, conference system and playoff system. And basically, in a matchup, say it's the L.A. Templars against the Las Vegas High Rollers, which is Rikishi's team. They have different divisions. There'll be a cruiserweight division, a women's division, a tag team division, heavyweight division, and each match, the winner of that match gets a point for their overall team. And at the end of the day, if it's a tie, they have a match called Warfare, which is basically a mix kind of between a gauntlet match and a battle royal. And it's a blast. And they're going to be filming the first taping of season 2 here is going to be at the Avalon in Hollywood coming up February 9th. I think they're going to air it online for now, but I think they're looking for a TV home, and you're going to see it's a good mix of talent from the past, like Rikishi himself, Scotty 2 Hotty, Grandmaster Sexy, The Godfather. Chavo Guerrero was on a team last year for some time before going to TNA, and a lot of great new talent as well. So check that out. And like I said, the ride's not over. We'll see what happens. If the door opens at Impact, we'll see what old Double J Jeff Jarrett's doing. I
was kind of not wanting to ask you about that, but I've been kicking that around in my head. Wonder what's going to happen with him, because it sounds like he's getting serious.
Yeah, who knows? And then of course that.
And how much does that rival? How much does that rival?
WWE as well.
Oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go for it.
No, I was going to say, how much does that rival his father's story? If you really think about it, his father tried to buy into the Memphis territory, and it ultimately broke off and created his own territory. And that ended up being the Memphis wrestling that we all remember for Andy Kaufman and Jerry Lawler and so forth, and the other territory kind of went away. So in a lot of ways, this is very much history repeating itself, with Jarrett breaking away from TNA and trying to create his own style. And let's see if he's as successful as his dad was. But it certainly is interesting, if you study the wrestling history books, how lightning can sometimes strike twice.
No question. And again, it's all pure speculation at this point, and he's certainly kept things very much under wraps, except for a couple hints here or there. And, I honestly hope that he does, because more opportunity in this business is a good thing. There's a lot of great talent out there that deserves a place to shine. He's got a great mind for the business. Obviously, it's in his blood. And I'd love to see something else spring up, another option out there for the wrestling fans. And it just seems like and maybe kind of spurred with WWE and some of the things going on, and TNA making changes, and now this. It just seems like the wrestling business as a whole is really going to pick up again and have some positive momentum, and it's an exciting time to be a fan, and hopefully for me it'll be an exciting time to land somewhere and get a great opportunity.
Well, if there's any justice, dude, if there's any justice in the world, you'll get there, because like I said, I enjoyed your commentary immensely. You always made me crack up. One of my favorites, and I'll leave you with this one, was you were calling the gut check match for Lady Tapa and Ivelisse Feliz, and you said maybe she'll become Lady Tap Out when she was in the finisher move.
That's so cheap.
That was cheap, and I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop laughing at it, and now look where she's at. She's one of their biggest lady wrestlers, if not literally, figuratively.
Literally.
Yeah. She is. All right. Well, thanks so much, man, for checking in with us again. And anytime you want to come back, we'd always welcome you back on. And thanks again for coming by.
My pleasure, man. Really enjoyed it. Thanks.
This is Jake the Snake Roberts. But no doubt, you must be listening to the interactive interview, and you better keep listening.
Hi, this is Jasmine St. Clair, and you're listening to me on the interactive interview.
And we're back here on WrestlingEpicenter.com and YouTube, here on the podcast, if you will. I guess it's called a podcast now. My day they were radio shows, but now everybody calls them a podcast, so why not? We're a podcast. Anyway, this is James Walsh, joined as always by Mr. Patrick Kelly.
Howdy, howdy. How's everybody doing?
Doing good. Conspicuous by his absence on his the Todd Keneley interview, part 2, interview number 2 with Todd Keneley. Patrick was catatonic.
Basically, that's the best way to describe it. I was dead to the world. Long day at work, woke up about 2 hours before I was supposed to, and just a long day. So by the time I got home, I was basically dead to the world.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. And with all the cold stuff, too, you don't know what your body's telling you. You know, your body could be telling you it's time to go to sleep and get rid of that cold or anything that could be festering in there.
Oh, yeah. Well, I wouldn't mind taking a day off just to not put up with the snow and shit, because that stuff's messy. Not just the snow, but the salt, too. It's just, my car's a mess.
Yeah, Todd Keneley is a California guy. They're in the 70s. I had a high today of 77 degrees, and Patrick Kelly, I'm in Arizona, by the way. Patrick Kelly, who is in Maryland, had, what was your temperature today?
Below 30.
Oh.
It actually started snowing again today.
My gosh, how much more can you handle?
Yeah, it was the middle of the day, so it didn't really have much of an effect, but man, sucked.
How much do you have on the ground?
I think it ended up being about 10 inches.
Wow, pretty good amount.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a couple days, so we've had time to kind of clean it up a little bit. But, yeah, I think it ended up being about 10 inches.
Yeah. Man, I don't miss shoveling snow, but I do miss the believe it or not, I miss the refreshing cold, but I don't think I'd want a whole season of it. I think I might like to visit on vacation once for a couple of days and see snow and then go back to 70 degrees.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
All right. Well, we did just finish up with Todd Keneley, and we covered a couple topics here that we're going to cover in our recap here show. Todd...
I like we had him back on. He's a nice guy.
He is, and because this time around we weren't kind of worried about stepping on any toes at TNA, obviously he played the very professional card because he hopes to get back in there, but because there was no job to be lost, I was a little bit more forward with my questioning this time around, and I think we had a better rapport this time than last time, and it was good to talk to him. He is a nice guy, and you know what? Anytime you talk to somebody who legitimately is a lifelong wrestling fan, there is some kind of kinship that you will find there, even if you disagree on things, like I do with many Ric Flair fans. There is a kinship there of, Yeah, we get it. We get what it's like to go through high school when wrestling's not cool. We get it, and for that we sympathize, and there's like that little bond there. We're fellow freaks. In that sense, we're kind of like the goth kids.
Yeah, us nerds got to stick together, man.
People just don't understand.
Yeah.
They don't understand.
No, I had to explain to somebody today, and it doesn't have anything to do with wrestling, but I had to explain to somebody today the awesomeness of Pacific Rim and why that movie is so awesome. I'm like, look, if you didn't grow up watching giant monster movies, you're not going to get that movie.
Probably not.
You're just not. Yeah. You had to watch Japanese giant monster movies as a kid to fully appreciate it.
Absolutely, and the cool thing about so much of what's going on right now with movies and everything is that, unfortunately, a lot of stuff is being redone, and some of it I'm okay with, and some of it I'm not. But the stuff I'm okay with, it's very cool to have your kids watch it, and Ninja Turtles is a good example of it, but there's others where they see the new stuff, and then you're like, well, we had this when we were kids, and you show it, and they appreciate it almost as much as the new stuff, because basically it's the same thing, or it's a continuation thereof. So an
example of a bad one, I just saw a commercial for a movie, I, Frankenstein, and I want to punch anybody in the face who had any hand in making that movie.
Yeah, I saw that the other night as well, and I thought, pretty much the same thing. What about RoboCop, remaking RoboCop? Because apparently 25 years is the benchmark of when things need to be remade.
And it looks like the same movie. It looks like they literally just made the same movie.
With new special effects. That's essentially it.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, man.
Anyway, wrestling.
Back on the nerdy track. We were talking to Todd Keneley yesterday, and I want to reference the significance of today's date in just a second. But one thing he said that'll help us spring into our Royal Rumble discussion was, if you are a wrestling fan who ever has to kind of explain why you like this stuff, if you were watching it with a group of people a few weeks ago when Daniel Bryan turned on the Wyatt family,
yeah,
you could kind of jump out of your seat and say, "There, that's why."
that is a great line, yeah, and that was one of those moments. And there are things to criticize about it, like maybe they didn't have Bryan and the Wyatt family long enough to really warrant that type of...
1 week, 2 weeks?
It was 2 weeks, yeah. And so there's things to criticize, but just the raw emotion of the whole thing and the way the crowd reacted to it, I was marking out. It was a great moment.
It was a great moment, and his character has just come so far to where he's kind of become Teflon. To where it's a continuous kind of, I don't want to say he gets shat upon, because if he really was shat upon and they really wanted to de-push him, he'd be Zack Ryder material right now. But,
right.
But they have tried everything they could do to keep John Cena above him and various others above him, where they kind of keep him just under that little cusp there. They very much have the glass ceiling.
That's like Edge a few years ago.
Very much so, yeah. They have that glass
a few years ago. It was 2006. That was 8 years ago. But, yeah, it's very much like that, where it's like, oh, well, we like you, but we don't want to quite go all the way with you. And they'll do something to undercut him, and then after a while, it's like, look, this dude's just too over and he's too good. We can't ignore it anymore.
Well, essentially that's what's going on right now with him. And, for all his WWE viewed negatives, his size and everything, he has just managed to outshine so many guys that they so wanted to be in his spot that just can't hold the position. So, I mean, God bless him for doing it. But, yeah, the significance of the date, and then we need to talk about the Royal Rumble. Today, January 23rd, 2014 is
31 years?
30 years.
Did he win the belt? I thought he won the belt in 83.
Nope, 84. Are
you sure? I could have sworn it was 83.
You might want to Google it, but I'm pretty positive. And that actually, yeah, Hulk Hogan beat the Iron Sheik 30 years ago today, and Patrick's going to fact-check me, I think.
Let's see.
30 years ago today?
I mean, I know you're the big Hulk Hogan fan, so...
Yeah, it was 84 he got it. I'm pretty sure. And he was on. You still there?
I'm still here. I'm just popping it in. All right, do we have a date?
It's ironic that we're debating this because it was 10 years ago. Jimmy Kimmel had Hulk Hogan on the show. And he had him on January 21st. Right? And during the interview, he kind of goes, so today's January 21st. And Hogan looks back at him like, yeah, I know what you mean. I know it's the date. And he says, does that date have any significance to you? And Hogan kind of stares at him and goes, well, if it was a couple days from now, it would be 20 years since I won the world title for the first time. And Jimmy Kimmel's face literally goes red because somebody gave him bad info. And he was just embarrassed. And
you are correct. It was, okay, here's where I got it. He came back in 83. Okay.
Yep.
That was where okay, you're right. No, he won the belt in 84.
Yep, and he went on to hold the belt for over 4 years until losing it to Andre.
The last multi-year reign in, really in wrestling history, which is kind of a sign of the changing times because I really don't think you could have a multi-year reign nowadays.
I don't know. I mean, the guy would have to be really over, and they wouldn't be able to use him. Would have to be well booked
for a long period of time.
Right, and he couldn't be on every single show.
Right.
That would be the key to doing it. If he was literally there on every single show, it would not work.
Well, that's one of the reasons that Cena's reign, that ungodly year-long reign, I think it went like 13 months. It felt like it went on forever because he was on TV every week.
You can't.
And it was the same thing all the time. It's like he shows up, does the 5 moves of doom, and then wins. And it was literally, that's all it was for 13 months.
Well, it worked to some degree. I mean, he's still the guy they're trying to push. So.
Yeah, they are not going to get off that Cena train for whatever reason. But okay.
No, they're not. All right, so Royal Rumble time.
Yo.
Here we are. Royal Rumble time. Looking forward to the Rumble?
Are you going somewhere with that? I have the card.
Oh, cool. No, really, I wasn't going anywhere with it. I just was hoping you were going to jump in and say, "Oh yeah, we got the Royal Rumble coming up this Sunday." Here we go. But Sunday. See a giant motorcycle thing right over other cars for no apparent reason, and this is exciting.
See the Truckosaurus on Sunday.
Sunday. There you go. Did you like those?
Anyway,
I miss those commercials. They don't do those anymore.
Now, does anybody go to truck shows anymore? Maybe down south, but
they do them at now. Instead of doing them as shows of their own, they do show. Monster Jam still does run, but they do a lot of that kind of stuff as like part of state fairs and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
It's still popular, but it's not as Sunday as it used to be.
Right. Okay, anyway, well, we got the Royal Rumble card here. It's just 4 matches, including the Royal Rumble itself. I gotta be honest, the undercard, well, okay, it's, there's talk that a Divas title match is going to be added. Nobody really cares. You have Big Show versus Brock Lesnar, and that match sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've seen it before, and they don't even really reference it too much. Remember when they destroyed the ring?
Exactly. Well, okay, Mark Henry and Big Show recreated that moment a couple years ago, and they acted like that had never happened before.
Well, yeah.
And they did the exact same thing.
It was the same spot. It was
same exact spot.
And it acted like it never had happened before, exactly. And it was Brock who did it the first time to him. So it's just, I don't know, it's bizarre.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Brock's a special appearance guy, and they should use him in matches that we haven't seen before. I don't know. But then again, the kids are so young today. It's like they're probably sitting around going, "Who's Brock Lesnar?"
I like how you made him have like a vaguely English accent.
Sure, why not? Like in Star Wars, Revenge of the Sith. When Darth Vader kills all the little Jedi kids, they all have British accents for some reason. That's the Skywalker. There's too many of them. What are we going to do?
Good times. Anyway, so yeah, I don't see any reason Brock doesn't win this match.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if Brock doesn't win this match, I call bullshit. So, Yeah, there's that. And then we got John Cena versus Randy Orton for the WWE title. Last month it was a TLC match, and now we're going down to a regular match.
Kind of seems backwards to me.
That's that's an understatement. And they're building it the exact same way they did a few years ago, where Randy Orton beat up John Cena's dad. Which you would think that Cena's dad would stop sitting in the front row, because that's like the 5th time he's been beat up.
Yeah, I mean, it's been done before. And Cena's dad has been on our show, and he's a nice guy, but he even said himself when he was on our show he's been beat up too many times on WWE TV, and he wasn't going to do it anymore. But I guess the temptation of being on national television, and he does bookings himself. He gets booked on shows himself just for who he is and what sprang from his loins. He gets to get booked for that. So I guess he figured it would help his.
It's like a reverse nepotism almost, because usually it's the younger generation that gets favored for a famous name, but it's the other way around.
Well, he's been doing wrestling stuff for a long time too. I mean, he's been involved in wrestling, so it makes sense. And I don't think he was using the Cena name until John really exploded. But good for him for making a little money off of it without Vince being able to take a little off the top.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I don't personally. I see Cena winning this match, and I really don't care.
I don't think anybody does. So it's the only interesting thing I can think of with this match is what will the implications be for WrestleMania? Because you got to imagine whoever wins this match is going to carry the belt into Mania.
You got to think that would be the only thing, is this is the official start of the road to WrestleMania. So you got to think that they're going to do, like you said, whoever wins it is going to be probably the guy who's going to get challenged for the title, because, well, he would have to be. There's only one title now. I keep forgetting. So, yeah,
which is nice. I really do like that.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that there's not like Alberto Del Rio holding a meaningless title or anything like that hanging around. So.
Absolutely. And the winner of this match is also going to face Brock Lesnar, so it kind of adds to and I assume that match is going to be in February for Elimination Chamber, so that's another reason for Brock to clearly win.
Yeah, I would say so.
Right.
Speaking of Alberto Del Rio, is he going to be facing Batista, or is that basically taken care of on Raw?
I think that was taken care of on Raw. They're both in the Rumble, but we'll get to that last. One more match that's been added, and this is one that I actually like, Daniel Bryan versus Bray Wyatt. My only complaint is that does that mean that Daniel Bryan won't be in the Royal Rumble?
Well, that was what the purpose of the 1992-ish promo was about. He came out and said, since he's not in the Rumble match, that means he's free to face me. Does that mean that neither one of those guys is going to be in the Rumble match, which that's kind of not cool because both deserve to be in there. But
absolutely. But if you look at the Royal Rumble entry list, there's 10 spots still open. So, I mean, who's going to fill those spots? I mean, they can only bring back so many old guys.
Right, and I expect them to bring back a good number of them. And I think that you're going to hear huge pops when they do. Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it for that reason. Perhaps for that reason above all else, to see, what surprises they bring. I'm hoping they put him in the match. If you do it the right way, they could have had those guys encounter each other in the Rumble match. Like maybe the other Wyatts are beating up on Daniel Bryan, and Bray comes out, to give the death blow and all that kind of stuff. Go the same route that they did with Savage and Jake Roberts in years past. Where they didn't
the Rumble is a good tool to do stuff like that.
It is, and it tells a story, and it's easy. It's easy story to tell, so it makes a lot of sense. But I'm okay with the match because, I mean, with that crowd reaction, you almost have to use that as a bargaining chip to the pay-per-view buying audience. To see that match. So,
and clearly Daniel Bryan wins.
Yeah, I would have held it off personally. I would have held it off. I don't think you can hold it off to Mania in this day and age, but I think you could hold it off to the next pay-per-view and done something at the Rumble to advance it. But yeah, I think that, like I said, they're going to try and strike while the iron's hot and make the money off of that crowd reaction. So that's what they'll do.
Sure.
I see Daniel Bryan has to win.
Oh, there's no question. So, all right, after that we have the Royal Rumble, and I have the this is the entrant list as it stands now, with 20 names. So there's 10 spots still open. CM Punk is entering at number 1, which...
Right, we know that already, yep. He's going to do the
Yeah,
Flair Gauntlet run.
Right, and personally, I got to think the winner of the Rumble is going to be either him or Bryan. I mean, and if Bryan's not going to be in it, it's like, well, that means Punk's going to win.
What about skinny jeans?
What'd you say?
What about skinny jeans?
Batista. Well, okay, here's the participant list. We got Batista, Alberto Del Rio, Biggie Langston, The Miz, R-Truth, Xavier Woods, Kofi Kingston, Cody Rhodes, Goldust, Rey Mysterio, Fandango, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, all 3 members of the Shield. Cool. Luke Harper, Eric Rowan of the Wyatt family, Damian Sandow, Jimmy Uso, and Jey Uso, and like I said, CM Punk at number 1. Wow. And with 10 spots that I expect Rob Van Dam to be in it. I expect Jake Roberts to be in it. Other than that, any other surprise? Maybe Sheamus will come back.
I expect you'll see Sheamus back. I mean, there's no reason to hold him off any longer.
Mm-hmm. Batista. Yeah, okay, I'm not opposed to them bringing Batista back for, a Rock-esque run, because obviously he's coming back just to promote his movie, but I hope he doesn't win the Rumble. To me, there's just no reason for Batista to just come back and win the Rumble.
What did you think of the crowd reaction for his return?
They were kind of, I don't want to say lukewarm, but it wasn't like the explosive pop that, say, The Rock got when he came back, or like Mick Foley would get whenever he comes back, or anything like that. It was just kind of like, oh, hey, it's that guy.
Yeah, it's like, I even posted it on Facebook, and the crowd goes, oh, him. Kind of was it. I mean, there was nothing really huge about the pop, and for God's sakes, who dresses him?
Well, that's why you referenced the skinny jeans. That's why he couldn't sit out on the Batista pop. Did you notice that when he beat up Del Rio, he didn't actually sit out on the Batista bomb? I was like, well, no, he would have blown right out of his pants if he did.
And Melina was nowhere around. Oh, sorry. Well, no, I'm sorry.
Oh, she already made her round, so.
Yeah, she's done, I think. Good for him. He cheated on his wife who had cancer. Good for him. That's sad. But anyway.
He's a former guest on the show.
He is a former guest on the show, but probably won't be a future one based on what I'm saying. But Jesus Christ, what the hell? They had him wearing like this ridiculous top, skinny jeans, and sunglasses that made him look 90. I mean, wow. What the hell?
It's like they were trying to make him look like The Rock. And I've said that with Cena a couple times. Well, of course, they don't make Cena, look like The Rock, but they try to, like, get him over like The Rock, but with, like, weird and funny things that quote-unquote funny things that he says on the mic. It's like they really desperately want to recreate The Rock, and they've never been able to do it. Because, he's one of a kind. It's kind of like going back to the old days when it was Lex Luger in the Hulk Hogan spot. It's like, look, you can't recreate that. Just try something new.
Yeah, it'll get you something, but it won't get you all the way. It's not, imitation is the greatest form of flattery, but it's not going to pay your bills. And essentially that's what happened with Luger, and that's what happened with, with his happening with Cena, with the, obviously trying to be the cool baby face like The Rock was, and I don't know. Batista, though, I didn't get the feeling that they were trying to make him look like The Rock. I think they were trying to make him look like a superstar. And in reality, they kind of made him look like Pee Wee Herman trying to look tough.
It didn't look good, whatever. Yeah.
It was horrible. It was really stupid.
And I don't know if this was, again, maybe this was the skinny jeans, but he didn't look that good physically.
Right.
Like, the spine buster he hit on Del Rio didn't look that good either.
No, it was kind of choppy. I mean, if anything, he dropped him on closer to the lower port of his lower back than flush on his back, and that made it look very awkward. And the not sitting out on the powerbomb as well was kind of strange. And I mean, obviously he's jacked to the moons, but he's not. I don't know if he's what he was physically, size-wise either. 4 or 5 years ago.
Well, how could he be? I mean, I think he was like 38 or 39 when he first won the belt, and that was 9 years ago, so.
Yeah, I don't know how old he is. I think he's like 45, 46, something like that.
Something like that.
Oh, man. What are you going to do? But, yeah, no, I'm okay with him coming back as well, and there's rumors that he might stick around all the way through SummerSlam, which is fine.
Maybe he can hold together. He's one of those guys that's kind of injury-prone.
Well, that's partially due to age. And as I'm 32 now, you know, I don't like to say things about, oh, well, he's over 35, so he's falling apart. I think it very much depends on how physically beat up you are as well.
Well, when you're in an athletic profession, and yeah, wrestling is an athletic profession, your body breaks down a lot quicker. I mean, Brett Favre in his, and you know, going to a football example, Brett Favre in his 40s looks like a grandpa.
He got
and
roughed up.
It's like, well, yeah, he got his ass kicked for 20 years. That'll do that.
He looked terrible, right? But physically, he was still able to play up until that last year, thanks to the let's not tell anybody because of Katrina that they have a bounty program going on, and the ankle tackle that he got that is 15 yards in my book, but in that day, no penalty whatsoever. That broke his ankle. I mean, for Christ's sake, the guy was laying on a freaking gurney on the sidelines, and they got possession back, and he rolled off the gurney a la Randy Savage to get back on the field.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was determination in reality, as Randy Savage portrayed in fiction.
Yeah, well, you know, and I've had my problems with Brett Favre, but I'll never deny that the dude was a warrior.
Oh, yeah. No,
I mean, yeah. I really liked him until the last couple of years when he pulled the whole, like, and I've explained this to you, the whole, like, yeah. I'm retired. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. But maybe I am. And, like, that whole thing is like, oh, God damn it.
From what I understand, though, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, he's oblivious to the media attention that he was getting. A lot of people were like, oh, he's doing it to rile them up. Apparently, he lives, like, off the grid. He doesn't want to be involved in that kind of crap. And because of that, he's unaware of, like, everything he was doing was getting swarms of, oh, he's going to come back, he's not going to come back, he's not going to come back. You know, I don't think he was fully aware of the shitstorm that he was creating.
Which is kind of hilarious, but...
Yeah, and that's why I kind of give him a pass on it, because it's not like he's sitting there, you know, laughing at it, just to, you know, drive him nuts. I think he legitimately was unaware of it. But anyway, speaking of football, by the way, I'm predicting the same as you. I think that Daniel Bryan should win the Rumble. I could see Cena and Daniel Bryan being headlining WrestleMania. And you know what? It's one of the few encounters that they could do with Cena that would actually really capture my attention, because I'd like to see what they could do.
Well, their first match was great, and I had the idea of turning Cena heel and making him the big corporate champion guy, because I think he would do much better for that spot than Orton. But, you know, turning Cena heel is such a taboo thing with the WWE. So.
They might do it in a vague sense, but they wouldn't do it to where he would actually be a heel. They would do it as a way he'd be a heel, but the night after WrestleMania, he'd come back and say, come on, guys, I've always been on your side, and then he's a babyface again.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, like Roddy Piper at WrestleMania 8, where he was just magically a heel for some reason. And then after the match, it's like, no, it's all cool.
Yeah, it's like, you're a punk kid. And then, oh, you're a heel then, I guess, tonight. All right. And then, yeah, like you said, as soon as Bret Hart won, it was over. And he was a babyface. There was really no story to that at all. It was hell of a match, though. Very much underrated.
Oh, I'll be honest, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, that was a hell of a match. And that finish hadn't been done 1,000 times at that point before either, so it was even extra special.
Bret was always great at coming up with good finishes. Like, I always, like, going back and watching Bret's old stuff is like, wow, he came up with some really good finishes.
And people have stolen him so much over the years.
Well, who wouldn't?
Exactly.
I mean, some of those is like, dude, that's a good finish.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, reading his book, which, if you've never read Bret Hart's book, I highly recommend it, because it's just fascinating to read, because, A, it's very detailed, and B, it was written before he made up with Shawn Michaels, so he just shits on Michaels the entire time. It's hilarious.
There you go.
But, and speaking of Michaels, he talks about the WrestleMania 10 ladder match and how pissed off he got at Shawn for stealing his ladder match finish, which was, getting crushed on the top rope while falling off the ladder.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brett came up with that, and Shawn apparently stole it. If you believe Brett, that's Brett's story.
Well, they did, and it was on a Coliseum video. I think it was called the Most Unbelievable or Unusual Matches. I think it was Most Unusual Matches. They did it just as like a test run, a ladder match, and this is when Shawn was still managed by Sherry. And that was the finish. It was the same finish. So there is validity to that. That Brett could probably be telling the truth on that, because there is photographic evidence that it was at least done with him prior to that.
Yeah, but, if Shawn was in the match and he's the one that took the crotch drop, isn't it technically... I mean, couldn't Shawn just as easily say it's his finish, too?
Yeah, I think you could. There's bad feelings there, and it all surrounds a woman.
I would have loved to have been in the locker room while Brett and Shawn were top guys in the company, because I bet that was just a bitch fest. Just back and forth every night.
Divided up the middle, and the one in the middle was Sonny. That's essentially what it comes down to, and there's been denials on everybody's front that Brett was interested in Sonny, but if you were a guy and you were living in 1996, you were interested in Sonny, so...
And poor Cruz Candido was none the wiser.
No, he wasn't. No, I wasn't saying that she was sleeping with everybody, even though she kind of was. I'm saying that you were interested, because she was hot as hell. But what are you going to do?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll wrap this up with the same way we wrapped up Todd Keneley's interview. Super Bowl Sunday. We probably won't do another broadcast until after Super Bowl Sunday. Prediction?
Ooh. It's really hard to say, because I have my heavy praises for both teams, and I have my, I'm not so sure about them kind of aspects either. I think the Broncos run a very efficient offense.
Defense is questionable.
What'd you say?
The defense can be questionable at times.
The fourth quarter play the last 2 weeks has been very unimpressive, quite honestly. I mean, they let the Chargers right back into the game. They let the Patriots right back into the game, and it's like, the scores really shouldn't have been that close. The Broncos should have stormed, it should have been 45-0 both weeks, and it ended up being a lot closer than it should have. It kind of makes me think, they don't put the knife in and they don't finish the job. They kind of, make some missed opportunities and kind of blow it a little bit, and it's all in the fourth quarter, and that kind of makes me think, it's like, I might bite them in the Super Bowl. We'll see. Seattle, I don't trust them on the road. I mean, they play amazing at home, and I knew it's like if they have home field advantage to the playoffs, I feel sorry for anybody that plays them. But they're not going to be at home for the Super Bowl, clearly, so I don't know if that's going to be a play. I don't know if that's going to play a factor either. So it's interesting. I'm not completely sold on both teams, and I'm not I do think both teams deserve to be there, but it's really hard to pick a winner.
I think they're the two best teams in the league, and I think that was proven over the playoffs. And I do think that they're the two. If it wasn't going to be the 49ers and the Broncos, it was going to be the Seahawks and the Broncos.
It's funny. My dad does not like Colin Kaepernick as a quarterback.
Either
and he said, watch. Yeah, he said, watch. He is going to make a fuck-up in the fourth quarter of this game, and
he made
I'll be
3.
damned if Dad wasn't right. Yeah, he did.
He made 3. Yeah, I was getting really pissed off with him, and here's why. I've never been sold on him completely either. But during the Panthers game, and this is going to surprise you because I know I'm not a huge supporter of Cam Newton and the fictitious milestones that apparently he's reached when he's won 2 games a season.
He played very well this year.
He did play very well this year, and he won me over. I really was impressed with how he played. During the playoff game with the 49ers and the Panthers, he scored a touchdown running, and he did Cam Newton's pose.
Yeah.
And that was kind of shitty.
Yeah.
You're being a little bit of a douchebag when you do that. Let's be honest.
And they act like Kaepernick built that team, and that's not true.
No,
they were already a really good team when he took the starting spot.
Right.
With Alex Smith.
Alex
so
Smith,
it's not like...
Yeah.
Yeah, and the year before he took the starting job, they had already made it to the NFC Championship game. So it's not like the 49ers were lost in the woods and then Colin Kaepernick came in and just saved them. It's like, no, they were already really good before him. So
they were a really good team, and it's Jim Harbaugh's coaching. As much as I think he's too much of a hothead and, frankly, too much
he's a lunatic.
He needs to
I kind of love him because he's a lunatic, but he's a psycho.
Oh, yeah, he's like me. I've said that. If you grow up watching football, you're hard to be around on a Sunday if you have a team because you'll find yourself screaming at the TV, and the people around you who are not grown up with it don't know how to handle the fact that you're screaming at your own television screen. And essentially, he's the guy screaming at his television screen, except he's on the sidelines. It's really scary.
The funny thing is his brother is totally mild-mannered.
Yeah, completely different. But they always said that Jim was the I'm gonna cough. Hold on. Was the hothead.
Oh well, is there any question?
Yeah, but they said even in high school he was the one that the high school quarterback who was screaming at the officials if they made a bad call and stuff. And it's like, all right, I could see that. But yeah, no, I think it's going to be a great game. I think that the storybook ending has to be that that Peyton Manning gets the win. It's a great story because if you think about it, 2 years
ago they thought he might be done.
Yeah, and not only that, but 2 years ago, Eli Manning won the Super Bowl in what was Peyton Manning's stadium.
Right.
And this time, Peyton Manning is playing in Eli Manning Stadium. It'd be a cool story to tell that they won in each other's stadium the Super Bowl.
That would be cool. My only problem with it is that I'm worried that, and this is nothing against Peyton. I really don't have anything against Peyton, but I'm worried that a Peyton victory will give them ammo, the media ammo in there. Let's hate on Eli, and that whole thing is like, because they will not leave him the fuck alone. They will always find excuses to say that he sucks, and it's like, look, he's got 2 Super Bowl MVP trophies. What do you want?
Yeah, they're tough on him.
Alone.
They're tough on him because of who his big brother is. Let's be honest.
That's exactly why, and it's annoying. And again, I don't hate Peyton for it. I just hate the way the media just won't let it go.
Oh, don't get me wrong. If I had to choose which one was going to be the quarterback on my team, I'd probably pick Peyton. But if I landed with Eli, it wouldn't be like, oh, I got stuck with that bum. I mean, it'd still be like, all right, we can win this.
Yeah, exactly. They're 2 different quarterbacks, and I wish they would get treated as such. And I'll be honest, I think Peyton Manning is, how do I want to phrase this? He's got the best brain of any quarterback I've ever seen. I've never seen a quarterback manage an offense as well as him. He's
like a maestro behind center. He really is.
Yeah.
He's basically telling him where to go.
And I was telling Dad this the other day. It's amazing to me that Peyton Manning offenses don't have more false start penalties. Because the way he changes the play and, works everything around and calls audibles and stuff, it's like you would think that they jump off sides more often. So it really just speaks volumes of how well coached they are and well practiced they are.
Absolutely. And I'm pretty sure Omaha means stand here, dumbass.
Well, Eli says that too. So I wonder,
That's got to be a family thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm picking the Broncos myself, but I could take either team winning. I think both teams deserve it. For personal reasons, I prefer the Broncos wins. My son, for whatever reason, even though I'm from New Jersey and we live in Arizona, he's been a Broncos fan for like 2 years, and I'd like to see them win for that. I have no idea why, but he's always been a Broncos fan. So, whatever. So I'd like to see him win for that and maybe get him a championship T-shirt or something because he actually has been. He's like, yay, the Cardinals won. Did the Broncos win? It's like, all right, cool. Well, all right, I can live with that. That's, as long as you're interested, I'm cool with it. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be my team. As long as it's not the Patriots or the Cowboys, though, that makes it okay with me, though.
Oh, when the Patriots lost, I'm like, well, okay, the Super Bowl just became watchable. That's good.
It would have been watchable as well, but it would have been more of a, not those guys again.
I can't wait. Okay, when Belichick and Brady are finally done and that era is over and done with, I am going to pop some champagne open because it's like I want that era over.
It is over. People won't say it, but it is over. When was the last time they won?
They keep making it to the AFC Championship every year, it seems. So they always go further than they should.
They should. I mean, this year they had half of their teams went up to are playing in somewhere in Massachusetts penal right now. But there you go. And meanwhile, they still end up playing well. So I mean, he is every bit as good of a quarterback as he thinks he is. Unfortunately, I just can't stand him.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll let you go with that, dudes. I hope everybody enjoyed the Todd Keneley interview. Check out Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. That's on channel 214 on DirecTV. It's also available, I believe, on Dish Network, so check it out. It is worth watching to see a lot of these young guys in there. Got guys like Joey Ryan also working there, and Matt Stryker is going to be doing in-ring competition. He has done commentary as well, so very cool company. And Todd Keneley is calling the action, so it's definitely worth checking out. Quality independent wrestling. If you haven't seen it, check it out. If you haven't already seen it, check out TCW, Traditional Championship Wrestling out of Arkansas. A lot of the cogs and little pieces that were part of the Global Wrestling Federation over 20 years ago are actually there. A young guy who was doing Team Beat at the time, Brandon Baxter, is actually their main ring announcer right now. And he said it. I've been watching it for like months. And this week on the show, he said his name, and I almost fell off my chair because I had no idea it was him. Because he was a mulleted 16-year-old kid in the GWF in the early 90s, and now he's a bald 40-something-year-old guy. It blew me the hell away. But anyway, hope everybody enjoys this interview, and do check out these young independent promotions. It's worth doing because these are the stars of the future. And realistically, if you're fed up with WWE, and if you're even still watching TNA, this is the wrestling to watch, where you can actually see guys get down and hold a hold for a couple of seconds and not have the crowd shit upon them for doing so.
Yeah.
All
That's
right,
always
dude.
nice.
It is nice. All right, dude. We'll take it easy, and thanks again, and I'll see you next week.
Peace out, everybody.
Bye-bye.